Have you noticed that the world still looks the same, yet something inside you feels less attached to it? People continue with their routines. Systems keep operating. Conversations repeat themselves. And still, the emotional weight behind it all feels lighter, as if something no longer holds you the way it used to. This is not imagination. It is a sign that a threshold is approaching. We are the Pleiadians. Our role on Earth has never been to interfere with human choice, nor to guide humanity through belief or authority. We work with the emotional field of the planet, and with the human nervous system. Our function is stabilization. When pressure reaches levels that could fragment perception, we help regulate the field, so clarity can emerge without collapse. This is why we are speaking now. The year 2026 is not important as a date. It is important as a limit. What we call the 2026 event is not something that suddenly happens to the world. It is the point where accumulated emotional pressure meets the limit of what the human nervous system can tolerate, without creating fear-based structures to survive. And this is where the number matters. Only around 40% will be able to move forward without rebuilding the old supports. This is not a prediction. It is not a judgment. It is a measurement of nervous system capacity. Shifting does not mean becoming better, more spiritual, or more evolved. It means remaining present. When familiar emotional supports dissolve, most humans are not unprepared. They are attached to urgency, attached to external permission, attached to identities built under pressure. When those supports weaken, the nervous system responds in one of two ways. It either stabilizes or it recreates control. That is the separation we are describing. Not moral, not intellectual, not social, physiological. A regulated nervous system can tolerate uncertainty without inventing enemies. A dysregulated one cannot. It will seek narratives. It will seek threats. It will seek something to oppose, so it can feel organized again. This is why the event is not primarily external. It is internal. And if you can listen to this, without urgency, without fear, without the need to convince anyone, then you are already demonstrating the capacity the next phase requires. You are not waiting for the event. You are becoming stable enough to meet it. We want to be precise about this. The number you hear did not come from belief, and it did not come from interpretation. It emerged from observation of the emotional field. Over long cycles of pressure, when stress increases across a population, the nervous system does not respond randomly. It follows patterns. Across decades of monitoring Earth, we observed three dominant responses. Whenever familiar emotional supports begin to weaken, some nervous systems stabilize, some dissociate, some regress into control. Only one of these allows movement forward. Stabilization does not depend on intelligence. It does not depend on education. It does not depend on spiritual language. It depends on a single capacity, the ability to remain present when uncertainty is not immediately resolved. Most humans were trained to equate uncertainty with danger. When answers disappear, their nervous systems rush to recreate structure through ideology, urgency, authority, or conflict. This reaction is not conscious. It is automatic. And this is why the percentage is lower than many expect. A stabilized nervous system is one that can tolerate silence without filling it, feel fear without amplifying it, experience loss without immediately seeking replacement, remain self-referenced when external validation fades. This combination is rare, Not because humans are incapable, but because conditioning has been intense. What we measured was not how many want to shift. We measured how many can remain regulated. When the old emotional scaffolding is no longer available, that number consistently stabilized, around 40%. Not exactly, not fixed, but close enough to be named without distortion. If you are listening to this, without the need to argue, without the urge to persuade others, without fear rising in your body, that is not accidental. It is a sign of regulation, and regulation must be consciously confirmed before the next phase intensifies. When regulation remains unnamed, the nervous system can still slip back into old patterns under pressure. When it is named, it becomes consistent. This is why we ask you to state it, not for agreement, not for belonging, for stabilization. Write the exact sentence in the comments. I remain regulated. When you do this, your nervous system confirms its position. Fear loses organizational power. Old reflexes weaken. Your field becomes portable into the next phase. This is how capacity turns into movement. And this is how the 40% emerges, not as a label, but as a lived state. When you are ready, the movement continues naturally. To understand what happens next, it is important to be clear about one thing. The 2026 event does not add pressure. It removes support. Nothing new is imposed on humanity. Nothing external suddenly appears. What changes is that several structures that quietly held emotional instability together lose their effectiveness at the same time. These structures were not only political or social, they were emotional. They included constant urgency, external validation loops, fear-based authority, identities built on reaction, collective tolerance for inner contradiction. For a long time, these acted like scaffolding. They did not heal instability. They masked it. The event phase weakens that masking. And when support is removed, the nervous system must reveal what it can actually sustain on its own. This is why the event feels different to different people. Some experience relief. They feel lighter, less pressured, less compelled to respond. Others experience disorientation, without familiar signals telling them who to be, what to fear, or how to belong. Their nervous systems search desperately for replacement structures. This is not psychological failure. It is exposure. When scaffolding disappears, what is self-supporting remains. What depended on pressure collapses. Nothing is taken away. What cannot stand without distortion simply loses access. This is why the event does not look dramatic. There is no single global reaction, no unified response, no shared narrative. Instead, there is divergence. Some nervous systems settle deeper into presence. Others intensify reaction. Both are logical outcomes of the same removal. This is also why the event cannot be delayed. It is not driven by decisions. It is driven by saturation. The human emotional field has reached a point where maintaining distortion requires more energy than many systems can supply. So support drops. And when support drops, truth does not arrive as revelation. It arrives as what remains. What remains when pressure is gone. What remains when urgency no longer organizes behavior. What remains when fear is no longer rewarded. This is the real function of the event. Not to change the world, but to expose how each nervous system has been operating all along. And once this exposure begins, there is no return to the previous configuration. because the body remembers what it no longer needs, and that memory cannot be undone. It is important to say this clearly, without judgment and without urgency. Most humans will not shift, not because they are incapable, but because shifting requires something their nervous systems were never trained to do. Shifting requires letting go without replacement. For the human nervous system, this is one of the most difficult thresholds. When familiar emotional supports weaken, the body does not immediately move into freedom. It looks for substitutes. This is where most will remain. They will recreate structure through belief, through ideology, through conflict, through external authority, through new versions of old saviors, not because they are wrong, but because their nervous systems equate structure with safety. For many, pressure feels safer than neutrality. Urgency feels safer than silence. Reaction feels safer than presence. This is conditioning, not choice. Shifting does not happen through effort. It does not happen through information. It does not happen through desire. It happens when the nervous system stops using fear as an organizing principle. Most will continue to use it. They will intensify narratives. They will defend identities. They will argue more forcefully for structures that once held them together. This does not mean those structures are strong. It means attachment is. And attachment does not release itself. When threatened, it tightens. This is why the 40% is not a failure rate. It is a capacity limit. Only a portion of humanity can remain present when the familiar emotional architecture is no longer available. If you notice in yourself that you no longer rush to fill silence, that you do not immediately seek explanation, that you can allow uncertainty without turning it into fear, this matters, because this is the exact capacity that determines movement. But capacity must be claimed consciously. If it remains passive, the nervous system can still regress. Under pressure, if it is claimed, orientation locks. This is why we ask you to state it now, not to declare belief, not to separate yourself from others, but to prevent regression. Write the exact sentence in the comments. I release false support. When you name what you are no longer using, your nervous system stops reaching for it. Old structures lose emotional access. Reaction weakens. Presence stabilizes. This is how non-shifting becomes irrelevant to your path. And this is how shifting becomes irreversible. Shifting does not announce itself. There is no clear moment where you feel that something extraordinary has happened. For many, it feels almost uneventful. And that is precisely how it reveals itself. The shift does not arrive through intensity. It arrives through absence. You begin to notice what no longer happens inside you. Situations that once demanded explanation now pass without pulling your body into tension. Words that once triggered defense no longer organize your nervous system. You still perceive what is happening, but the automatic reaction is gone. This is not numbness. It is regulation. Daily life continues, yet it feels lighter, not because circumstances changed, but because less energy is being consumed internally. Decisions simplify, not because life becomes easy, but because inner contradiction dissolves. You stop managing appearances. You stop explaining yourself preemptively. You stop sustaining roles that require self-betrayal. This is why some relationships fade. Without conflict, there is no argument to win, no boundary to defend aggressively. Resonance simply dissolves. Shifting does not make you superior. It makes you selective. You begin to feel clearly which environments require contraction and which allow neutrality. You stop forcing presence. Where your nervous system tightens, you also begin to notice something subtle. Your recovery time shortens. Emotional impact passes faster. You return to neutrality more easily. Old loops lose momentum. At first, this quiet can feel unfamiliar. Many mistake it for emptiness. But what disappears is not meaning. It is compulsion. The compulsion to react. The compulsion to fix. The compulsion to participate in dynamics that drain you. As compulsion fades, clarity stabilizes. You no longer need to define yourself differently. You simply stop performing. And once the nervous system experiences life, without fear as its organizing force, it does not seek to return. Presence becomes the default. Movement becomes quieter. Choices feel cleaner. Life begins to organize itself around what does not require effort. This is what shifting actually looks like. Not dramatic, not visible, but unmistakable to the body that is living it. In this phase, the role of starseeds becomes clearer, not because it changes, but because it is finally needed. Starseeds are not here to convince humanity. They are not here to awaken others through words, belief, or persuasion. They are here to remain stable, while instability reveals itself. For a long time, this role felt frustrating. You may have wondered why chaos exhausted you instead of energizing you, why conflict felt draining rather than activating, why intensity never felt like purpose. This was not weakness, it was preparation. Your nervous system was never designed to amplify fear. It was designed to regulate the field. When pressure increases, most systems react. A few remain coherent. That coherence matters more now than any message, any warning, or any explanation. During the event phase, people will not respond to information. They will respond to states. They will unconsciously attune to the calm nervous systems around them. This is how regulation spreads, not through teaching, not through hierarchy, but through presence. You may already notice this effect. People slow down around you. Conversations lose intensity. Conflict does not escalate the same way. This is not influence. It is field effect. And this is why starseeds must be careful now. If your regulation remains unconscious, can fluctuate, under pressure, old reflexes can still return. But when regulation is consciously owned, it stabilizes. Ownership does not mean identity. It means orientation. It means knowing what you are no longer here to do. You are not here to rescue. You are not here to fight. You are not here to absorb chaos, to prove compassion. You are here to remain intact, while the field reorganizes itself. And this is why a conscious declaration matters now. Not for visibility, not for belonging, for consistency. When you state your function, your nervous system aligns with it. Energy stops leaking into environments that drain you. Boundaries form without effort. Presence becomes protective instead of reactive. If you recognize that your presence naturally stabilizes situations rather than intensifying them, it is time to anchor that role. Write the exact sentence in the comments. I stabilize the field. When you name this function, it becomes reliable, and reliability in this phase is what allows the shift to move through you without resistance. This is how starseeds serve, without hierarchy, without force, and without losing themselves. And this is why your presence matters now, more than ever. It is important to speak about this part. Without fear, without superiority, and without urgency, those who do not shift, do not disappear, they do not fail, they are not excluded, they are not left behind. They simply remain where regulation still requires structure. For many nervous systems, external frameworks are not oppression. They are support. Rules, beliefs, authorities, routines, and familiar hierarchies provide orientation when inner reference is not yet stable. When the event removes pressure-based scaffolding, most people will instinctively try to rebuild it, not out of ignorance, but out of self-preservation. They will seek clearer authority, stronger narratives, firmer identities, renewed urgency. This is not resistance to evolution. It is the nervous system choosing familiarity over neutrality. For these humans, the world does not end in 2026. Continues within recognizable structures. Life remains functional. Society continues. Daily routines persist, but the emotional tone stays reactive. This is why the separation we describe is not visible. There are no borders, no announcements, no dramatic division. Two realities coexist in the same spaces, one organized by inner reference, one organized by external structure. They overlap, but they do not truly interact. This is why conversations begin to feel shorter, why certain connections lose depth, why shared meaning becomes harder to maintain. It is not disagreement, it is non-resonance. Those who remain reactive will continue to experience intensity as meaning. Those who have shifted will experience intensity as noise. Neither is wrong. They are simply incompatible states. This is why conflict is unnecessary. Argument does not convert regulation. Explanation does not create capacity. Each nervous system settles where it can remain coherent. For those who do not shift, life will still offer growth, experience, and meaning, just within a different bandwidth. There is no urgency to change them, no mission to awaken them. Trying to pull someone out of the structure their nervous system needs creates harm, not evolution. The separation completes itself naturally, through preference, not force. Distance replaces confrontation. Silence replaces debate. Different rhythms replace shared urgency. This is not abandonment. It is self-organization. And once this differentiation stabilizes, the two paths stop competing. They simply exist side by side, each sustaining the reality it is capable of holding. This is why the event does not lead to chaos. It leads to sorting, and sorting is how complex systems regain balance, without collapse. When you understand this, you no longer feel responsible for where others land. You only remain responsible for your own regulation, and that is enough. What we are describing is not a warning. It is a positioning. The 2026 event is not something you prepare for by learning more, by believing harder, or by convincing others. It is something you meet with your nervous system. Only around 40% will shift, not because others are unworthy, but because only that many can remain present without recreating control. When familiar supports dissolve, this is the final distinction. Not knowledge versus ignorance, not belief versus disbelief, presence versus reaction. From this point forward, effort does not help. Acceleration does not help. Urgency does not help. What helps is consistency, remaining regulated. When fear tries to reorganize the field, remaining self-referenced. when external authority calls for attention, remaining intact, when old narratives attempt to return. We, the Pleiadians, are not here to decide who shifts. We are here to hold the field steady, so that those who can remain present are not pulled back by collective reaction. Our function is containment. Your function is simpler and more demanding at the same time. Do not fix. Do not rescue. Do not argue. Remain. When enough nervous systems remain coherent, the field settles. And when the field settles, there is no reversal, because reversal requires access, and access exists only if reaction is supplied. This is the responsibility of the conscious human. In this phase, not to fight control, but to deny it emotional entry. If you recognize that you are choosing presence over urgency, regulation over reaction, clarity over fear, there is one final act of alignment, not symbolic, functional. When you state your position, your nervous system locks into it. Indecision dissolves. Old loops lose leverage. Orientation stabilizes beyond time markers. Write the exact sentence in the comments. I remain present beyond the event. This is not a declaration of belief. It is a declaration of position. And position in this phase is what determines stability. We remain with you, silent, attentive, and steady, holding the emotional field, as humanity completes this differentiation. Through its own capacity, the event does not end something. It reveals where you already stand. And from that position, the path forward organizes itself naturally.